What's up? Welcome to our first ever in-person recording of We Weren't Blue.
Yeah, man, we did it.
We did it.
We did it. And now we have no idea which camera to look at,
I
right?
know, right? But we make do with it. What's happening, man?
Not much. I'm glad we could make this happen, man.
Yeah.
It's been a whole this is our second season of doing this.
And it's our first time
Yeah.
recording.
And we blame, the commercial guys for not having a front of shirt sponsor, but it's only taken us 2 years to do an in-person podcast. So looking forward to it, man. How have you
Yeah.
been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. Glad we could meet up, obviously, and get this going. And it's an interesting time
Yeah.
for us to be doing this because
Yeah.
quite a lot happening right now.
Yeah, and it's also very intense eye contact. So
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, did you get a chance to catch up to all the games?
Yeah, so like I've mentioned, kind of bragged about, it's really not that interesting a brag, but I have caught up to all the games in terms of rewatching the highlights, extended highlights, and yeah, lots to take away. I think, of course, we'll come on to it, but I did want to mention overall, I think that fixture list was just objectively tough. I mean, you're looking at Wrexham away. We did the job in the end, but
Barely.
yeah, barely. But there was merit for my prediction that we would lose, and them getting a red for a change made a big difference.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about the PSG games in isolation later on. I would like to do that, and then
Okay.
yeah, Newcastle at home, who I said they really know how to set up against us and frustrate us, and them playing away from home at the Bridge. It's kind of playing into their hands already. I always saw this as a tricky fixture. Everton was, for me, the big surprise. And it's just reminded me why I should never be so optimistic in
Yeah.
life.
Pessimism wins out for you, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was that stat pad against Port Vale, which was basically just a stat pad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, dude, I think as realist as I wanted to be, I couldn't have predicted it going so bad versus PSG, especially because that result is just horrible, man. Just horrible.
Yeah. If we're coming on to PSG now, I think really Rosinha's lack of experience at that level, it came to the fore. I'm not going to blame the players so much, but I think his lack of understanding of how to manage games, really like games at that level, a two-legged tie, especially when we were 3-2 down in Paris. At that point, most seasoned managers who have been in the Champions League year in, year out, right? They know, it's not a point game.
Yeah.
It's a goals game. It's an
Yeah.
aggregate game. So take the 3-2 deficit, shut up shop, and, we'll handle the deficit in the next leg.
Yeah.
But instead, he went gung-ho, trying to score an equalizer and potentially a winner. And we paid for it dearly. I mean, imagine, in the last 5 minutes of the game, in the highlights, I was just seeing counterattack after a counterattack from PSG's point of view, where they had more players in our half of the pitch.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
this is the first leg. You guys have already lost your heads. It makes
Yeah.
really no sense. So at least from my perspective, I'm not really going to blame Jorgensen's one mistake when he actually had a really good first leg. I think his distribution was useful. It actually broke us through PSG's press a few times. He makes one mistake and everybody gets on his back. I don't think that's fair. But maybe you share your thoughts on that.
I think that, look, the mistake is what led to the capitulation from the rest of the team. I think being put in that position and he made 2 howlers in that game, right? If I'm not wrong, there were 2 mistakes, not just one.
Okay, I remember the gift where he basically just passes the ball to Bakula,
There were a couple
which directly led to the goal.
Yeah, but there were a couple more incidents like that where he almost lost possession playing risky passes.
But not punished for it.
Okay.
Which I know that's an outcome bias, but he's been asked to play that way. So
my bigger problem is the fact that he was playing. I think that at such a high stakes moment in the season, right? It's PSG. You know they have something to prove because it was clear they were smarting from the Club World Cup, right? they applied to have an extended break. Their fixtures moved around and everything, and at that stage, why are you going to disrupt the? I mean, anyway, the defensive line is being chopped and changed a bunch.
Yeah.
Sanchez, it finally looked like he'd hit some form. Maresca left, his form began to get topsy-turvy again, and then you just kind of put Jorgensen into the limelight
Yeah.
at that stage. And I think you just didn't do him any favors.
My thing is, you put Sanchez in, you put Jorgensen in, unless you have the best goalkeepers in the world, they're going to make those mistakes.
I mean,
So I think if Sanchez is playing that game, it manifests in the same way, you know. And we've seen him. I there's like actual evidence to suggest that he's also not that great under a lot of consistent pressure. And to be fair, Jorgensen made it like 2/3 of the game before his mistake, where, like I said, he actually was enabling us to play out from the back, where Sanchez has typically gone long. So my thing is overall, right? You go down 3-2, the manager should be saying to the players, like, this is not the end of the world.
yeah.
Let's shore up the defense, right? Let's play for a 1-0 deficit. And you know, this is something else I wanted to come on to later. Is Rossignol just very adamant on playing his way, which is like, we're constantly going to be, most of the time we're going to be pressing. We're also just going to constantly be trying to play through the opposition rather than, you know, we finally found direct football under Maresca from time to time, and wing play was something they're both not adept in. But is he the one kind of pushing that, where it's his kind of, how do you say, inflexibility? Or is it the fact that the squad he has does not lend to, let's see out a 3-2, like we're down 1-0, right? Or 3-2, whatever, however you want to say it. Let's take this home and handle it at home. Like, does the squad allow him to do that?
I think it's a bit of both. I think if it comes from the manager that you guys need to sit back, absorb pressure, get compact. Sure, you may not have the personnel, but at least you'd see that manifesting on the team, and then they'd play through us.
Which we didn't see.
We didn't even see him
try it. Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. I guess it's also on him, because if he had said that and we still conceded maybe one more goal because our players were incapable of doing that, and I'm not saying they're capable, because we've seen them concede and lose from winning positions. I mean, immaturity is something we really need to cover, right? There's a lack of maturity, of experience, of how to manage a game. It's evident to see, right? All of that is why I'm saying it's a two-faceted problem. He's not, but it is his inflexibility that's starting the problem. You know what
true.
I mean?
He could show up at PSG and just tell Jorgensen, you're playing today, and you know, overall you may demonstrate better technical ability on the ball. I actually don't care about that today. I just want to walk away with a draw. Right? So just go long. He could approach that.
And we've seen it work. We've
true.
seen it work. We've seen it work from pretty much, I want to say, the same squad, give or take 3 players, maybe.
It's true.
We've seen it work. So all he had to do was just keep the same system, or obviously, okay, you're gonna tweak it. And it's not that he hasn't played PSG before. With Strasbourg, he had a 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss versus them, if I'm not wrong. Right?
But I mean, you brought this up earlier. You pointed out the mentality side of this, right? Where I'm gonna say PSG were more motivated, but I think it's just generally in this run of games I have seen subpar motivation, or you know, Maresca had us like going full throttle. You know, he had his own issues, but motivation was not one of them. These guys wanted to play for him, I think. This run of games was particularly tough. So by the time it came to the second leg, forget it, right? So I'm questioning our overall level of motivation, and I think whether or not we did beat them in the Club World Cup, whether or not that was a key driver for them, they can decide that, but they were just more driven on the pitch.
But I think, I mean, that then feeds into some of the news that we saw and read over the international break, right? Where it's pretty clear that these guys aren't motivated to play for Rosinia, right? I mean, they Cucurella and Enzo, two senior players in the squad in the current
Yeah.
setup, have come out saying, at various points, going back to the first PSG, like where Enzo said something about Maresca being sacked or whatever, leaving the way
Yeah.
he did, has affected us. It's clear that there is some residual, hangover from that. For
You know,
sure.
honestly, I can't be too critical on the players because look at how much turmoil they've had to deal with off the pitch.
Mm.
And there's always been this gap, right? The owners, the board, the, like, let's say the C-suite level appointees, right? They do all this stuff behind the scenes, but it's the manager, his staff, and the players who kind of have to answer those questions in the interviews, right? It's not like, okay, Todd Bowley is probably a little bit more prominent,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like Eghbali and his team, Clear Lake team, right, behind the scenes are actually being held, responsible in like, let's say, any public way.
Yeah.
So there's always that gap, right, in information. So when the manager comes out, he's just trying his best to defend. The players have been put in the same scenario for the last how long? Basically since Clear Lake and Todd Bowley took over, right?
Yeah.
So I think this kind of last 2 weeks international break where we've seen Cucurella and Enzo speak out, I think it's just come to a limit for them. Where they have certain personal ambitions. They've also been sold on a project.
Yeah.
But they're probably tired of having to defend where the project is going. So I can't blame them. It's like, obviously when I put it that way, it's a human reaction, right? When you look at it from that perspective. I want to say, Cucurella, I'll back that guy to the end, man. Like, that guy is actually Chelsea. Like, that's the mentality we want at the club. That's the mentality we remember at the club.
Yeah.
Enzo, man, the guy's vice captain. All of that shit he pulled after the World Cup, right? With him being a racist and all that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea can house a racist. We've seen it in the past. And he moved on with the rest of the squad from that. But then to say all this stuff with the vice captaincy armband on, I don't think that's very responsible. I think at bare minimum he should at least lose that vice captaincy role.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with you. And then it begs the question, who leads the team when Reece is out? Because he is
Trevor
out.
Chalobah.
Man, I'm not gonna...
No, come on. Okay, look, you can say what you want, but at least he's a leader on the pitch. Like, he can kind of bring us together defensively when it needs to be
But
done.
I don't think he's seen as part of that leadership cohort. I mean, Cole's there.
You
Tosin's
asked me
there.
a question. I don't see these guys in training.
Fair. No, but
So my suggestion is that,
yeah.
who would you have? Or, because you agree, right, that he should lose.
I mean, so yes, I think so, right? Because now the other way to look at it was that he was just trying to secure his bank, right? And that's what some of the more cynical people were saying.
You look at it from that perspective. Yeah. My point's still valid.
No, I'm coming to that.
Exactly.
Coming to that. Your point is 100% valid. Like, as a vice captain, he should not be saying any of this shit.
Yeah.
And he gets dropped from the team for, obviously for Port
We
Vale.
really missed him for Port Vale. Really missed him.
Where we have City, of course. And I mean, I think in a match like City, you'd want Enzo on the pitch. Not having him there is really not going to work for us. Now, Cucurella was dealt with separately, and it wasn't dealt with like this. But I don't know if you saw the news yesterday where his agent, Pastore, when did Pastore become an agent, by the way?
I'm still remembering him from like Football Manager days.
Right? Yeah, but Pastore comes out saying, we've resolved the matter with the club. It was never Enzo's intention to harm the club, and this discussion will happen in the future.
Yeah.
He's still under contract. So why much ado about nothing, maybe?
No, well, so it comes back to my point of it being an emotional response.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of it is like, if they're trying to secure the bag, I secure the bag from Chelsea or from Real Madrid or whoever, right? I don't think that's going to like earn you any points with the potential buyer that's going to come in for you.
Yeah.
Right? If you're speaking out against the club in such a way.
Yeah.
You're putting the club in that situation. So it doesn't look good on your resume that, you're kind of outspoken. Clubs don't like that these days.
Yeah.
Upside, Reece James has signed a new contract.
Yes.
So I'm like, why? I also saw during the week, and again, I never know what's really real or not, right? But apparently, Cucurella,
Hmm.
after his comments, but also Reece James,
Hmm.
have been informed, since they're more senior members of the team, on how the club is planning to progress and slightly change their approach. Firstly, who in their right mind signs a contract at Chelsea right now? It's only like the most loyal players, right?
Yeah, and Reece is definitely up there,
Yeah.
right?
So you can go into more detail, because I want to get your thought process on him signing a new deal. Why does he do that?
I think he does that because, yeah, he's loyal to the club. He's been there since he was a kid. He's captain. He sees the long term vision. Obviously, he's buying into maybe what Rosini is saying. There were people saying that in this moment, your captain's not saying anything. Reece has not come out saying anything. He should be.
It's noticeable absence.
It's noticeable absence. But at the same time, you think back to Terry when he was captain, right? Through all the shit that happened, even
He
when
was the one creating all the shit, Terry. So
no, but I mean, like when who was it who didn't play him? Sari? No.
I want to say it was
Conte?
Villas Boas, right?
Conte was more recent. Yeah, whoever it
Yeah,
was, I can't
yeah.
remember for sure, man. Fuck, there's too many managers, but
Yeah.
in that period, he was not out there saying the kind of shit that, I mean, not making comments like Fernandez has, right?
I mean, and Enzo's playing. So what is it? What exactly?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right? So you, as a captain, you don't know what he's saying behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You're not going to know what he's saying in the dressing room, but in the public domain, he cannot come out and question them. I don't think, and I think it wouldn't be wise of him to.
Okay, so what you're saying is, you get why Reece James is he's probably having a word, but it's under the radar. It's in
Probably,
private.
yeah, I'm sure it is, and I think the fact that he is then signing a contract is also probably backing up what he's saying in person to these guys to say, look, I believe in this project. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I look at that.
Okay, I mean, look, I'm not going to question it too much, because he is a world-class right back. I don't think any fan out there who's seen him play can deny that, right? So we'll take that. My point is, I actually just don't feel like we've earned his loyalty. And a player with more ambition, bro, I'm pretty sure he could replace Trent Alexander-Arnold at Real Madrid.
But, sorry to cut
Go ahead.
you off.
No, go ahead.
Conversely, he hasn't been fit long enough. If you actually
True.
there was a tweet I saw.
But you're telling me that like a Man City wouldn't come in, and they've got Nunez, and I don't know Man City's playing squad as well as I should. They already have right back depth, right?
Yeah.
Right, like a Rico Lewis or whoever it is. You're telling me they can't afford him? They can, and they can also upgrade their squad with Reece James.
There's
part of the
no
team.
doubt that other teams would come in for Reece,
Yeah.
right? But if you look at his Chelsea career, right? Because after Wigan was where he really broke onto the mains, onto the big stage, right? He was captaining them on his last game there, right? As like an honorary.
Yeah.
He came to Chelsea. He's had an injury after injury through that period.
Yeah.
So this was really interesting. There was an all-time Chelsea 11 based on FIFA ratings from like the last 20 years. Reece is now Azpilicueta is still rated higher than Reece has been in that period.
But Aspi is a G.
He is, but I'm saying
he is still a better captain than Reece James.
Still a better captain for sure. Now, if you think about ability and world-class players as well, there's an argument that Reece on a good day could be better than
as a footballer. He's better.
Yes,
for sure. I will agree with that.
The rating doesn't reflect that. Because of his. I'm just saying, from an injury perspective, his career has never really truly hit.
My point is, right, I think a more ambitious player moves on.
Yeah.
It depends. There are different ways of looking at it, right? A more ambitious player doesn't sign the contract and actually, signals to the market that,
No, but
I could be interested.
Reece is one of those players who's tasted success with Chelsea. He knows what that feels
like.
Okay,
so let's just not question. He's a loyal guy.
Yeah.
His loyalty is at the utmost.
Yeah.
Do you think we've earned it? And can I point out, this is actually the point I've been trying to make. I should have just gone with this earlier, right? He's clearly signed the deal out of loyalty to the project and to the club, right? do do we not see how funny, and I don't know if ironic is the right word, that we're keeping this world class player out of loyalty, right?
Mm.
And that's clearly not how we're approaching all of our
The
other
rest.
players.
Yeah.
We're not actually encouraging loyalty from players
Mm.
because we don't give it to them in return.
Mm.
So this is the main conundrum. It's demonstrating that if you want to keep your best players,
Mm.
you keep your promises
Yeah.
and you show them loyalty.
Yeah.
So for me, as like, Reece James has demonstrated he's clearly a much better person than I am, because even though he's very loyal to the club, I'm pretty sure, like, given the right price,
Yeah.
could you say that Clear Lake will turn down any money for him?
I don't think they'll turn down any money for any player.
Yeah. So this is the thing.
Yeah.
This is actually it's really the point I wanted to make was
Yeah.
we're actually benefiting in this one circumstance from loyalty, but we're not showing it to get
To the
more.
rest, yeah.
So we're basically writing off a way in which we can keep our best talent.
Mm.
So anyway, this was great. This was great because, like, we've obviously benefited from Reece James signing a contract with us, and him being captain on the pitch, or of the club, fantastic. And hopefully he grows more in this leadership role. I think he still needs to do more. When it comes to Enzo, I think these guys, if they get £105 million or whatever it is we paid for him, I think we could see him leaving in the summer.
I mean, Madrid have to say they want him. I mean, I read that Atletico may also be interested.
And Atletico have paid big money before.
Yeah.
So, like, Julian Alvarez,
and
I
he
can't
kind
remember how
of
much he
fits the
cost.
mold for Atletico more than Real for me.
Spanish speaker, right? So that as well.
Shithouse Bromance.
Yeah, look, honestly, man, like, when Enzo is on his game, I'd love him to be in the starting 11 because he's a nasty guy when he wants to be.
Yeah, that's
right?
Yeah.
And we don't have enough of that.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to talk more about the mentality aspect of the game, because I've found that there's a bit of a general malaise.
Yes.
In this recent run of games.
Yes.
Where we're seeing, like, kind of lackadaisical effort at the thirds of the pitch that really matter. I always flash back to Fofana not tracking the runner after Reece James. Fine, Reece James doesn't play centre back full time, and he's being dragged all across the pitch by, I think it was Joe Willock's run. I can't remember who made the run in behind initially. So fine, you lose your man, but when you lose your man, that's not the end of the play.
Yeah, your
Fofana can still track his man, right? But he's not. And Gordon has actually overtaken Fofana in that.
Yeah. Fofana stopped because he thought he was offside.
Yeah, but
he was playing for the the whistle. And
so my thing is, it's a lack of overall effort and commitment. At least that's my perspective. What are you making of? Is there any mentality change that you're seeing from Maresca to Rossinha in the players?
Definitely, and I go back to the PSG result, right? I think the fact that it was 3-2, and I mean, up until the 75th minute, it's not that we weren't in the game, right? I mean, if you look,
very true.
Look at PSG Liverpool, man. PSG had a higher XG in the one game versus Liverpool than they did over both the legs versus us.
Yeah, honestly, man, like, in my notes here, for me, like, okay, they're still the best team in Europe, reigning champions.
Yes.
And dude, their finishing was nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at Kvaratskhelia goal from outside the box. Oh man, and the finish from Bakula, their first goal,
it was
left-footed on the ball. Like,
dude,
how are you supposed to keep these things out? Like, you can't even blame the keepers. So
I mean, I felt like for at least one of them, I felt like Jorgensen could have done better.
You just don't like the guy.
No. I mean, I also felt it with Sanchez in the return fixture. So for what it's worth, I felt like the goalkeepers could have done better. A world-class keeper is saving you at least 3 goals in that tie in over both legs. I think.
Like you say, even if it's one of those goals,
I'm saying 3.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, okay, we can disagree on what's realistic, right? Yeah. But even if it's one. 5-2, 4-2.
It changes the mood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and that's why I think so. Going back to that game, and that very first series of just putting Jorgensen in there, I think that was the start of this bad run.
Oh, man. I think you're
I
putting
think
too much on playing Jorgensen.
no,
Man.
I think that decision
Mhm.
had the repercussion of that decision, which is a 5-2 loss, which has happened where we've conceded 2 goals in a matter of 10 minutes at the end of the game,
Mhm.
and that hit to the mentality.
Yeah.
We've not recovered from
But
that.
those 2 goals were not his fault.
No,
Like, I've watched it back.
No, I'm not saying
So-
I'm not saying the goals are on Jorgensen.
You're basically saying conceding the third in the way we did.
Yeah, and then going on to concede 4 and 5.
But like I've said, right? Manager manages, right?
Manager ages men.
Do we just stop the pod, right? Okay, no, look. The manager is supposed to manage the situation, right?
Yeah.
He's made a mistake, but we've won games where our goalkeeper has made a mistake
he's made
in the past.
I think that
This guy is still brought on Garnacho,
yeah.
trying to chase the game when you don't need to.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, the 2 goals they scored are like, what are you guys doing? You're 3-2 down in Paris. Stamford Bridge, you're telling me you're so, I don't know if unconfident is a word, but you're not confident enough to be able to do the job in Stamford Bridge that you actually are like chasing the game in Paris. It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Man. So again, like this is another thing I wanted to ask, right? We've seen you've agreed that okay, there's maybe a slight lack of motivation or just a general fatigue or whatever it is, right? It's also manifesting in our final third.
Oh yeah.
It's we're not making things. You know, when there was that glue for when Rosinha took over, and it was like, oh, this aesthetic style of play that fine. It was a bit slow. It was like very very risky. But at least going forward, there was some connections there, and sometimes players were like, "Oh wow, weren't even thinking; it was instinctive." We've seems to have lost all of that in this run of games.
Kind of feels like the more he's been able to implement his system, we've gotten a bit shanked in a sense.
Yeah,
that's
a fair point.
Because when he first came in, he was also saying, I don't really have too much time it's been a game every 3 days, so I haven't really had time on the training pitch. So that time it was instinctive because the players were playing in a way where it felt natural to them as a progression, maybe. Maybe what happened was they didn't have Maresca's restraint.
Yeah.
So they were able to play a little bit more to what they thought would work. And then Rosinha tried to implement more of his way, and that's kind of led to this. I don't know.
Yeah, going forward, it's been a bit shaky, particularly because I think everyone except for João Pedro is off form, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
So the form element is there. For me, I think it's always good to remember that we've had an extremely long season.
Yeah, this is true.
So between the constant rotation at the back, and I don't know how many games I've watched where the commentators are like they love to point that out. They're like, oh, the Chelsea managers constantly had to or not chopped and changed their back line, and really the back line is the one thing you want to keep consistent. Right.
Yeah.
The forward line you probably want to rotate a bit more to keep it fresh, to be more creative, right? So, but we've had to, for one reason or another, discipline being a very, very controllable one. So all across the pitch, we've seen that we've not maintained a consistent lineup, but particularly in the back. So that explains the defending. I think we've now reached a stage in the season where Neto hasn't actually had like a full season like this, let alone 2.
Yeah.
Right? He's been constantly injured at Wolves.
True.
So, the guys that we were depending on, I think they're shattered.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, it may seem like a very simple explanation, but sometimes the simplest is actually the thing that explains it best.
That's true.
We're just seeing the after effects of the Club World Cup.
That's
and
true.
Like you said, the French league are like, hey, PSG, if you're going to challenge in the Champions League, they understand the benefit it's going to bring to their league, because more viewers will be like, well, PSG have just won the Champions League last season. They're going to be in a semi-final or whatever it is. The French league could actually be competitive, right? It could be a decent watch. I want to
Yeah.
watch Bakala. I want to watch Dembele. You know,
Yeah.
they're getting that support. It's basically, I think, it's an accumulation of fatigue in the legs.
No, that's true. I think it's in the legs, it's in the mind as well. You can see that. You can see them like at 65, 70, like almost switching off at times.
Yeah,
Um, and of course, yeah, you're not helped by all the chopping and changing that's been needed.
yeah.
I do think in that regard, I'm not happy with how he's used some of our players.
Okay.
And I think that will feed into some of like what the rumors are coming out about like transfers and stuff as well.
Yeah,
I think certain players haven't, risen to the challenge,
yeah,
and certain players he's not utilized well. I'm thinking like in Andre Santos, where he suddenly was not featured, like he didn't feature for like 3 games straight.
yeah,
Achampong, nowhere in the squad, like getting bit part minutes versus
yeah.
Port Vale. Tosin, Fafana, these guys at the back not really doing.
I don't ever want to see Tosin. I can't watch him play because the guy, when he has the ball, he's suddenly threading these like magnificent passes to Palmer's feet.
Yeah.
And he's finding him in the 10. Actually, like that's great. But the trade-off is he's crap at everything else. He's supposed to be quick, but he's not quick.
He can't even win a freaking aerial ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the tallest player we have, and
he
can't.
scores a header against Port Vale, and everybody's like, "Oh my god,
yeah.
we're like on top of the world." This guy's a huge centre back, and she should be doing it week in week out. He's been a disappointment. For Achiampong, there's so much we don't know about that goes on behind the scenes. Again, with fatigue, injuries, we know about the disciplinary stuff on the pitch, but off the pitch, we don't know. What's happening, right? They do try to keep it very like insulated, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as to why certain players aren't playing. I just have to say, my personal gripe right now, I've gotten past Gusto, because I know you said stat padding, right, against Port Vale.
Yeah.
But that's how we should use Gusto.
Yeah.
Where he's not trying to collect the ball in the 6 role as a DM and then like pass it forward. He's trying like to connect play with 1 and 2 touch stuff and make runs in behind. Now, I still think he's better used wide right, but he can still interchange, right? So sometimes he can go right 10.
Channel, right.
And so there's a little bit less predictability in our play, right? So I've moved past him. I really hope that that's how Rosinha is like, okay, if we want to play Gusto, that's just how we play, and I don't want to see him do anything else. Andre Santos, man, still a very good tackler of the ball, still a very good defender, but his passing range, and I've noticed this ever since he started playing for us, his passing range is not at a Premier League level.
Not yet, maybe.
I think I can't remember who it was. It was against Everton. It was a hospital pass that you could see coming from a mile away, that he had both Enzo and Cucurella to his left, and you just knew he wasn't going to know the exact strength to hit either one of them and hit it in between, and that's exactly what happened. They pick it up, hit the ball on the counter, and suddenly it's a goal. So that's my personal gripe with Santos. I don't want to say he shouldn't be playing at this level, because there are other aspects of the game that are important, but passing is a pretty important part of Rosinha's game specifically, and where he plays Santos. And I do wonder if that'll see him actually drop down the pecking order. I mean, we've already seen Lavia play the last few games, one of them being Port Vale. But I think Lavia is much better suited, mainly because he can play under that pressure, especially in the middle. And then he's also got that extra thing of being able to find that pass. His fitness is still the main concern. But I don't want to undersell Santos. Where he's added is that defensive steel we have in the midfield. I wish he was just a little taller so he can win us more headers, and might be a solution to that kind of long ball into the back line where he can drop in and help. But he's allowed us to actually win the ball further up the pitch and also have a little bit more bite in our midfield. Having said that, I still, in my rewatch of the highlights, the amount of times we actually win the ball, even against PSG, like quality opposition like PSG, we win it back in their defensive third of the pitch, and we do nothing with it.
Yeah.
It's so infuriating because Rosinha will be going, well, I've actually set you guys up to do this. You're getting the chances, but you're just not burying them.
Not clinical at all.
So,
For sure. Yeah.
and this is when these are opportunities that we couldn't create better,
Yeah.
right? Because once the opposition sits in their low block, we know it's extremely tough for us to beat them. But whether João Pedro, Garnacho, Enzo Fernandez, they get to that zone 14, and we're seeing like powerless shots that are okay. They're just troubling the keeper, but it feels like
Not
we're not
even
going to score.
sometimes. They're just sometimes straight to the keeper, in my opinion.
So what's this all about? This lack of clinicality in those scenarios.
I don't know if it's down to just form. Like generally, players being off their game. Like João Pedro had a hot streak, of course, but then he also didn't score in one of the games where you were expecting him to. Cole Palmer has only just said after Port Vale, where he was interviewed after, saying, "Yeah, I'm finally feeling like I can shoot with no pain."
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't even see that.
He said that, right?
Yeah.
Enzo is not the best finisher. He's got goals for us, but
Yeah.
he isn't the best finisher. Garnacho hasn't been really,
He's also
clinical.
not a goal scorer.
He's not.
You would
He's
say
more of a dribbler, but he's still gotten more goals than
one would have expected. I expected.
We'll go into Garnacho watching it, right? And Neto, I think, was just a purple patch.
Yeah.
I don't think Neto can perform consistently.
Yeah. I mean, he's very one-dimensional.
Yeah. Very.
He's very much a winger type, and when he tries to kind of be a little bit more incisive with his passing or shooting, it doesn't really pan out well.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, I agree with your form. I just don't think we have the personnel. Like you say, Enzo gets us goals, but look at where he scores them. It's inside that penalty area. And the late runs, exactly. But he's ghosting in unmarked, right? And hey, don't remove that from our game. Like that's a really, really good. I'm not questioning that, but sometimes you win that ball in the opposition's half, they're scrambling back, right? And Enzo Fernandez doesn't have the legs to suddenly catch up with whoever has won the ball in their half of the pitch. That person needs to carry and shoot as quickly as possible. We're lacking. I think we're just lacking that specific.
So I also think it's a lack of depth, because there are times where the João Pedros and the Cole Palmers are not on the pitch when we have these chances.
And João Pedro is, but because it is falling to him sometimes.
Yeah, but
like I say, Palmer is probably tracked back
at that point. A Delap's on.
Yeah.
If Garnacho's come off the bench, he's on.
Yeah.
Estevao just got back in, right? I feel like Estevao's...
we missed him.
We've
missed him. I'm not going to say that he would have changed our fortunes drastically, but
it would have had a positive impact, I think, for sure.
So I think my question here is whether it's in that transitional element where we're picking it up and we're just not we're having like a very tepid shot at goal, or we're creating a chance we're still missing, right? How do you solve that? My preferred thing was you have to demonstrate that Enzo Fernandez cannot get away so lightly with what he has said. And missing the Man City game is a big one, but if he's going to miss the Man City game, he should also miss like the United game and thereafter.
So he should be dropped effectively, is what you're
saying. I think he should be dropped, but I'm always skeptical because Lavia is his replacement, right? And how he can't play 90 minutes, and then you're talking about Santos. So it's about managing that. But in that scenario, I'm thinking, fine, maybe you don't bring in some extra midfield flair, midfield contribution. You actually bring in Delap, because you can say what you want, but he is a striker who needs a run of games, and he actually he adds value when he's that guy kind of playing up against the defender with his back to goal. He can actually link up in tight spaces and run the channels. When we're asking him to run the channel and shoot, that's where you're seeing him kind of fall off balance and completely skew his shot. But I do think, like, let's say you win the ball up in their half, in the opposition half, with Delap as a striker, and JP and Palmer behind them, one of them could potentially pick it up in that space, and suddenly you have more confidence in that to be executed into a goal, right? I think you go with that route by not playing Enzo, right, rather than bringing on like an Andre Santos.
I don't know. I don't know if Delap's the answer. I do not think so. I don't think he's shown that he has anywhere close to what we need from a number nine. What Chelsea needs from a number nine, Delap is not the person. That's the way I see it, truly. Because those moments where he picks up the ball, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's not that
yeah.
he's been able to connect play and find a good pass every time. He's had a lot of stray passes as well. And
I find that that's just down to the general level of play we've seen, though. I can't just attribute it to him alone, is what I'm saying.
fair, but I mean, maybe he needs a run of games.
Yeah.
Maybe this solution works.
Most players would.
I don't know if that's the answer. Is all I'm saying.
No,
I
well,
don't know.
we don't know.
We
But
don't know.
I'm pointing out that okay, there's clearly an issue going forward,
Yeah.
right? And like you say, fine, we can't create chances against a low block, which, by the way, that's how it's supposed to work. I keep saying that. Look, if you're facing a low block, you can damn straight you'll count on the fact that you won't be able to create as good chances or as frequent of a chance,
Yeah.
right? So we have to find different ways. That's one
Yeah.
thing. But at least when you're winning the ball in transition and you can either counter from your half or go straight at goal if you win it in their third, I'm like, okay, at least we can solve that by having a quote unquote another finisher on the pitch, you know? So that's why I'm saying, okay, if it's not Delap, how else do you solve it then?
You have the extra man in midfield who's more mobile, and I think that's where Santos is the answer over Lavia, because
Okay.
Lavia is a little more defensive minded, I think.
Yeah.
So I feel like that might be the only way, or or maybe you have Santos also sit and let Caicedo push up a bit. I don't know.
That's actually that's
I
fair.
don't know.
That's fair. But then you're
Or
talking,
you
Yeah.
play Neto, Garnacho, Palmer, João Pedro. You don't have Neto, Garnacho subbing.
yeah,
play them
you play the
together.
two wingers.
Yeah, you play the two wingers, and I think that might actually help, because one thing I felt is we've been very narrow.
Yeah.
We've not really used the width of the pitch
Fair. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
both sides.
That's his
equally.
game plan.
That's his game plan. But if
yeah.
he actually tried to stretch the play,
Yeah.
we might find that, like you said, with Malo Gusto on the right,
Yeah.
either overlapping or coming down the inner channel,
Yeah.
and you have another winger to play wide,
Yeah.
that might help, because I actually have felt that a lot of times we've been very one-dimensional or one-sided.
It has been very one-dimensional because we just go down the wing that has a winger.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you play both wings with wingers,
Yeah. But see, for me,
Esteval, as well.
Esteval coming back is key.
Yeah.
But again, I've been a critical, like, let's say, okay, that doesn't actually make sense. I've always been a bit critical of his finishing as well. So I would
You
say
have,
actually
yes.
play the two wingers. That's probably a safer solution,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a bit more balanced, right?
Yeah.
Rather than having the two strikers on the pitch. My thing is, I've seen enough of Garnacho's finishing, and I've seen enough of Neto's finishing. Who I haven't seen enough of consistently is Delap. And
Fair.
we don't have Champions League to play for. We basically have FA Cup
Hmm.
and Prem
Hmm.
to make sure we try and get the Champions League.
Mm.
You would want like somebody else aside from JP in the center of the pitch, right? A striker or a 10, somebody else who can start to fire.
You would.
Because the wingers, right? I also don't feel like the chances fall to them a lot of the time, right? Unless they somehow manage to connect from. João Pedro is very good at doing this, right? With his little back heels or scoop turns and then laying it through. He's very good, man. He's good at linking the play. And that's when it can go to a winger.
Mm.
But it doesn't happen as much.
Yeah, fair.
So we have to also look at how we're creating the chances. So, of course, like you said, it remains to be seen. I do think Rosinha will probably opt for the safer of the two options, which is get that extra winger on now that Esteval is back. that guy has the energy and the drive that we need from a winger, because I can't watch like Neto particularly like continue to cut in constantly, right?
Yeah, Neto's
The thing is,
like
when
predictable.
Garnacho and
Too
Neto
predictable.
actually try to hit the byline, they look threatening. They actually cause problems for the defense. And there was a run of games where Garnacho was either hitting the byline, but then doing a drilled low cross to cut it back. It
Yeah.
was actually hitting the target,
Yeah,
as
he
in
was.
he was finding Enzo or Palma, whoever, and that's a dangerous like chance created. Or he was kind of cutting back very quickly. He receives the ball and cuts back and hits an early curler.
Yeah.
And João Pedro has been good at
Yeah.
getting on the
Yeah,
end of
that's
those.
true.
But then now what we're seeing from him is more of the standard Chelsea winger these days, right?
Yeah, but okay, so on Garnacho.
Yeah.
You know I have to do this.
Here we go. Here we go.
Garnacho watch. Honestly, how do you think he's done?
Honestly speaking, I think he's a great second choice winger on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's made that his own. He probably wouldn't like that, right? Like if that's
Second
what he's
choice,
ended
yeah.
up, second choice left winger. Just in the same way that I think Neto would be second choice on the right wing. I think there's too much inconsistency in his gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you why that's the case. I'm pretty sure Rosinha and Maresca before him have basically just given him the license to decide what to do on that left wing. But when like I mentioned, when he's hit the byline, he's looked threatening. Especially he's able to get his left foot around the ball and actually cut it back as a flat cross, right? That's looked good, but we don't see enough of that. We don't even see him try it. And I would rather him fail at that, but at least try to do what a winger should do in this system, than do what he is doing, which is shuffle, like start from wide and then kind of receive the ball and shuffle the ball in and try and find Enzo in the pocket, but then end up going back to Cucurella or whoever is behind him, and then we just go back the other way. So I don't know who it's down to. He's shown flashes. I do like his like kind of deeper far post crosses. Again, the quality of those has been hit and miss, but when it hits and there is a target to aim for, it's another chance created. But him and Neto are very similar in terms of like eye test. I haven't checked their actual like goals and assist output. But that's why I say they're both, I think, at a similar level, which probably says more for Neto since he's older, right? Rather than Garnacho, who probably still has room to develop.
Yeah.
So I'd say that there's promise there, but I don't think we have sorted this left wing issue that we've had since, I can't remember the last good left winger we had. Maybe it was Hazard. But that's really scary when you think about that, because that was a very, very long time ago.
I think it was Hazard for sure.
So you tell me.
So
then how's he done?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, how do you measure success? Because
trophies,
for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm saying at an individual level, right?
We're Chelsea fans.
You asked me, in one of the first pods when Garnacho Watch became a thing.
Yeah.
What would be the target you'd expect from him?
Mm-hmm.
And I said 6 goals, 8 assists based on his last full season at United.
Yeah.
Doubling that. He's currently on 8 goals and 4 assists.
Congratulations.
That's 2 less than the target, but we have...
That's like 12 more goal and assist contributions than I really hope for. So
do you classify him as a success? I'm not saying I do. I see all the issues as well, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, okay, look, he's still got a run of games.
Yeah.
And he's 2 away from the target.
Yeah.
So if he does do that, then yeah, I mean, he's a qualified success, right?
The other thing is also, right, there's still the drama that comes with him. Now, the whole league lineups, there was a thing that maybe, again, it was his brother behind it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
his twin brother.
Fuck if I know some shit. The same United shit. United fans will know this.
Yeah.
But
didn't he also remove Chelsea from all of his socials?
Yeah, he did that shit as well. So there is all this drama with him, right? So objectively, if you look at it just in terms of numbers, and he hits that target, that was an arbitrary target set by me, not by anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what the club had for him, but
you said 6 goals and 8 assists.
6 goals and 8 assists.
I mean, that's 14 goal contributions.
He's at 12.
We can't with what we had before, we can't bat an eyelid at that. Like, that's solid, if not successful contribution.
So in that regard, yes, maybe. But I mean, I guess jury's still out on him because There was some rumors again over the break, so I guess we see where he comes to. But that again now leads us very nicely into the
The
last.
next run of fixtures or
There's
the last run
eight,
of fixtures.
maybe 9 games to go.
Yeah.
Like I said, Port Vale I think was a great stat pad for
Yeah.
us to set us up for this. Even if it was Port Vale, we got 7 goals.
Yeah.
Morale must be better. And now we have.
I tell you what, yeah, you call it a stat pad, but at least we did the stat padding because
That's my point, right?
there are some Chelsea teams in the past who, on this run of form, like I'm thinking Graham Potter's teams, who might have actually cocked that up.
Yeah,
So
fair.
So this is me being the optimist in
Lovely.
person. Yeah, I know, it's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? Okay, so take us through. Okay, this is basically the run-in.
This is a run-in.
So
We're doing the run-in?
we're doing the run-in. We'll do the whole fixture list.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So it starts obviously this weekend.
Yeah.
City at home.
You know what I'm gonna say.
It's a
So
loss.
I haven't changed that much. So yeah, I think we lose.
Now let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Chelsea loses City at home, and City have a chance of catching Arsenal,
Yeah.
or Chelsea beat City, and
I take the
basically-
win. I take the win all day.
Right?
Like if it was up to me to make that choice, I'm still taking the win for Chelsea, man. We need to qualify for Champions League. I don't care who wins the title. If it's not us, we've lost the title.
that's
So
fair.
I think anybody who's kind of, firstly, Arsenal still like have a lot to do to catch up to like Guardiola's greatness, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We've still got 2 Champions League in the bag, right? So it's not like we've been a terrible club, but we have to admit that we need to. We have a huge gap to close. So
Yeah.
it would be about closing that gap for me, than about Arsenal winning the league.
So you think we lose though?
I do think we lose,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I want to say,
and City do have a game in hand, right?
Yeah.
So there is like for them, they're chomping at the bit for these points. I mean,
Correct.
that
yeah.
combined with our defensive shape and record, I don't want this to be a bloodbath. That's all I just want to walk away and like, oh, it's a tough fought, like the Newcastle game where one lapse in concentration, 1-0, and we tried to come back. It didn't really work out, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I guess put us both down for losses for that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay, all right.
I mean, as much as I want to say we win it, I don't think we do. A draw seems like I'm hoping for too much, so I'm just gonna say we lose it. So
No, but hope aside, what do you think?
I think that
There's an opportunity. I mean, I'm not changing my answer, but there's a perspective here that City are chasing this game. I know we've spoken about how Rosinha doesn't like to invite pressure on, and maybe we didn't go into enough depth as to whether we can even do that, right? But
I think our defense
Can
don't
we
cope
ca-
with
yeah.
they don't cope with Haaland and Cherky. I think Cherky's gonna be the difference maker.
yeah,
So
fair enough.
I
So
think,
both of
yeah.
us saying losses there
Yeah, and then we have United
at home.
at home.
Actually, United are somehow. Can we even say United are our bogey team? I mean, like they're better. They're better than us, but I never expect us to beat them.
Yeah, I know.
So
But I still think, I feel like we beat United.
okay, I'm going draw.
Okay.
I'll go draw 1-1.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then we have Brighton midweek because of course we have the
FA Cup
the FA
semi-final.
Cup semi-final bump that.
But basically, what you're saying is there's a week break from Port Vale to City,
Yes,
and then a week break from City to United.
correct. We would have had Champions League. If
So
we,
Rosinha should have had more impact. So can I change my United draw to a loss then? Okay. No. In all
There you
seriousness,
go.
I'll stick with the draw.
Okay.
But there's actually like time for him to
Yeah, I get what
figure
you're
stuff
saying.
out.
Yeah.
So let's hope that
Okay.
we can turn around. Brighton away Tuesday.
win. Should be. We need the points. I know, but
I
Brighton.
think we're gonna lose. I think we're gonna lose.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Fair. And then of course then weekend is Leeds. We've already
In
dropped
the FA
points.
Cup at
Yeah.
Wembley.
Yeah.
So what you said we lost.
We've lost
lost
and drew. We've dropped
Yeah.
points to them already.
and it's
in the
been
league.
loss and,
And
then
then
draw
And,
and
then win.
Okay, so
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Because
so,
I have us down for 9 fixtures. I have us
Okay.
Wembley final, versus
Yeah,
Southampton.
earlier on you said 8 or 9.
Yeah.
9 is inclusive of FA
Of
Cup
FA Cup
final.
final.
So
Yeah.
okay, so we're going through to the final
Yes.
then, according to us.
Right.
And Garnacho is getting player of the season. No, that's too much.
That's too much.
Okay. So
Okay. And then so we have winning at Wembley.
yeah.
Okay, and then we have Forest at home.
So I just want to say I have been bitten by this Everton game. Right? And like, look,
Just say loss.
okay, I'm gonna say.
I know that's what you
no,
want,
no.
right?
I'm gonna say draw.
Okay, and I'm gonna say win.
And also Chelsea Burnley, that 1-1
Yeah.
was just, oh my god, man! Like Fofana getting that red is one of the reasons why even at home I'm like,
No, I get
there's
it.
this always added element of it's the immaturity. That it's these games where like, oh man, Chelsea look great, right? And then they don't score because they're not clinical enough. So instead of 3-0, it's 1-0.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, the last 60 minutes, the mentality shifts. There could be a red card.
Yeah.
Even if there's not, we already know we're on
Yeah.
the defensive at set
Yeah.
pieces. It's like, it's written. It feels like it's written in the stars.
But I feel like some of these fixtures are. We go back to last season and we had a similar sort of run in where Liverpool and Forest were in the last set of games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we did do the business versus them, especially that Forest game.
under a different
manager. I know, so I'm backing off of this team knowing that
And
we
that
need to get
manager
that.
then went and got us the Club World Cup, which, by the way, like, I don't think on this pod, I mean, we don't do enough on this pod in general. We haven't done that many episodes, but what we don't do is highlight just how much of a job he did against PSG in that final.
I think
Because
it was
that
immense, yeah.
isolating that pass from Sanchez to Gusto and Palma on the right wing was just like, that's tactics. Like
That's tactics, yeah.
and
Nuno
we've
Mendes
lost
was
this
very
edge that we could have had by keeping Maresca. So I think I'm gonna go draw against Forest. You're going
I'm
win.
going win. And
then Liverpool away. I don't see
I
us.
feel like that's a 6-pointer, but given their form, I mean, look, given their current form, I think
they're
we
not
should-
going to set up against us the way they did against PSG.
No, I think they've just generally been on a very bad run. So for me, I mean,
You're saying we get a point out of this?
I think we should get a point out of this.
Okay.
At
I'm
least.
saying loss. I already know. I
Okay.
think they are still better than us. I'm surprised at how close this is considering how bad we are. But like you were saying, I guess it's not just us
they've
that are
been very
bad.
bad, yeah.
So
Okay, and then we have a final at Wembley. It could be City or Southampton.
yeah, it could be City or Southampton.
Probably City.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think we lose. I think we lose the final. I think also this current squad in a final with this manager, it doesn't have that same cohesion and also mental strength.
Mm.
You know.
Mental strength for sure doesn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you say, cohesion could develop in these next few set of games, but again, Rosinha's
We'll probably be like talking about these in a month as well. So
may or
let's see
may
how-
or may not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we lose in the final. We get there, but we lose to City.
Fair. I mean, as much as I want to say we get our first piece of silverware with Rosinha,
Yeah.
it's probably a higher chance of us losing if we even make it there. Let's. give it
But
that.
you never know. They might UEFA might invent a new trophy
For
to
us,
win in the
yeah.
summer.
Fair.
Yeah, for players who don't go to the World Cup, like just an extra bit of money. I should actually license that idea. That's a great one. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, and then Spurs in our penultimate fixture
We win.
could be
We win.
the loss that relegates them. For all you know,
Yo,
they're literally at 17th place right now.
I see Spurs on the sheet, and even I know I should be saying win.
Win, yeah.
Okay.
So Spurs is a win, and then we close out the season with
Sunderland, man.
bogey,
Yeah, like
big bogey,
old school bogey team. I know. Also away in Tyneside for this. This is a tough one.
It's a tough one, but I think
How about this? I think if we are in the running still for Champions League,
It's
I
a
think we win. I think if we have nothing to play for, which means Europa League or Conference League or nothing, I think we lose.
okay. Fair.
And I don't actually see a draw in this game. at
Okay,
all.
so without getting into the maths of it, because
we don't have the time for that. Yeah.
where do you think we end up then?
Fifth.
Fifth.
I think even in the last pod or the pod before, I said fifth. And looking at our form, but then also just eyeballing the rest of the teams, I think fifth.
Yeah, I think fifth seems fair.
It's just that Villa are they just seem a bit out of reach.
So I've done something really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I prompted Gemini.
Your best friend.
Not that this is
Yeah.
this is not a sponsorship
Yeah.
or anything. But yeah, I prompted Gemini to say, based on the current table
Yeah.
and team's form,
Yeah.
and
remaining fixtures and all of that. Yeah.
what do you predict the table to be? And Arsenal to win on 85.
Damn.
City second on 78. United third, 68.
Yeah.
Chelsea fourth on 64. Liverpool 61. Villa 60.
That is a massive turnaround.
Yeah.
That's a huge turnaround.
So it attributed this to the fact that we are actually third when it comes to XG.
Yeah.
But we've been performing really bad relative to that.
Yeah.
Takes into account how last season we were able to
turn it around.
And basically saying, look, if we're able to just perform at par with XG,
yeah,
and given the fact that the Villa have just been on a really bad slump and
Yeah.
they're not able to recover,
okay.
we
Are you sure you didn't type into Gemini, how can Chelsea turn this around?
No.
Because it sounds very biased into
Not
one
at all.
direction.
No, I try to keep it very neutral, but yeah. So
So I mean, if Gemini is your AI of choice, stop using it, because that's a bit ludicrous. I don't. That is a huge swing of points.
it is.
But
It's 16 points.
I would love
from
to
the
be proven
next,
wrong. Yeah, that's
21.
That's nuts. That's actually as if you have predicted it.
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
On that note,
On that note,
that's a good place to mic drop.
yeah. I know. I'm not that surprised though. I'm not that surprised. Like you said, we did something similar last year. Obviously, every season's different.
Yeah.
But it comes down to how you're able to defend,
Yeah.
how you're able to score, and the cohesion.
So
So I've said fifth.
I think fifth as well.
Okay.
If Gemini is right,
Yeah.
I'll take fourth.
Yeah.
Right?
Like that extra bit of cash
Yeah.
for Todd Bowley
sure.
to find the next, I don't know who.
Cut.
Yeah. You might notice that, like, I'm wearing a Chelsea jersey without the front of shirt sponsor in honor of, not the current scenario, but next season's scenario when it's inevitably gonna
Points
happen.
if you can guess what year that's from.
Yeah.
Drop it in the comments.
Points that don't go to Chelsea's table, but just to your ego.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you've just got to get some hygiene out the way, if you enjoyed this, definitely subscribe to YouTube, because we're going to try to do more video. And you'll be seeing more of us here.
Yeah.
And leave us a rating and 5-star review on Spotify.
Yeah.
Share this with other Chelsea fans.
All
Follow
that-
us on X. You'll be here getting more rants and more of Sharan's late takes.
Yeah. It's like a late night talk show talking about stuff that happened like a month ago.
Basically, slow news, slow Chelsea news.
But that's just a good way to do it. You digest, take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Have a go at Andre Santos here.
Yeah. So yeah, do all of that, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.